Mr. President, if I try to find one of the things on which we all agree in this House, I think the most likely undisputed point would be that home ownership is one of the greatest dreams of many Jamaicans, and that it therefore must be a priority of administrations, and indeed has been, of this administration, would follow pretty easily from that. If I were to find another point on which we all agree in this House, I suspect the next one that may have been referenced in this House, in this chamber, would be that there are many people who were impacted by Melissa who still need help. But there are other facts that must be brought to the table, on which it seems that we have some disagreement. One would be that this administration has absolutely been doing everything within its power to help people who need help to recover and reconstruct in the West. Mr. President, one thing that is certain, however, is that we have very different approaches. We have different approaches to governance, to government, to planning. And this means that we view the recovery process very differently. So we want to establish an institution, plan out a program, pull all the financing together, systematically ensure that when we rebuild, it will be stronger, more resilient. People will be in safer housing, in safer locations, not repeating disaster after disaster with the same level of vulnerability. We are committed to making sure that we build back better, Mr. President. And what that requires of us is not a scattershot approach where you do whatever you can in whatever little space immediately and think that you are helping someone for the long term. Tarpaulins are a part of a process and a path. They offer some protection, but no one is here on this side saying that they're the end of a process. And certainly, the fact that there will be an entire, I think for some things, you really have to just wait for the result to be able to demonstrate to people. When things are done properly, when things are done carefully, when things are done following the appropriate processes and with the appropriate certified, qualified, and technically capable people getting it done, with the appropriate financing in place, we will get a different result than a suggestion that says, boy, take $4 billion and every year you just take it and build a house. Sir, you missed the point that the issue that we are having in this country now is not a financing issue. There are several other structural and systemic issues that constrain the development of housing and affordable housing. This is crystal clear and has been stated so many times that it is absolutely just mind-boggling to me how it is that this point can be missed at this stage of a debate. The issue is not financing, Mr. President. If you put more fuel at an airport, if the runway is at capacity, you're not going to get more flights. The issue is not money, Mr. President. The issue is the capacity. It is the existence of enterprise contractors. It is the ability to title and plan land. It is the ability to plan the changing land use and titling where you have to relocate entire towns and municipalities. These are not small things to be done, Mr. President. And if your best, most large-scale attempt at providing affordable housing is Operation Pride, you are the last people we are going to for advice. Literally the last people we are going to advise. When we took office in 2008, Mr. President, 2007, 2008, the NHDC was loss-making, had been through scandal after scandal, including Operation Pride. NHDC, sir, National Housing Development Corporation, we converted it into the Housing Association of Jamaica, Authority of Jamaica. We brought it back to profitability with strong governance. It started to operate again. When they took office again in 2012, by the time we took office again in 2016, it was again loss-making, Mr. President. Had lost billions of dollars once more, had to change out boards once more because of resignations due to misconduct. Mr. President, regrettably, we cannot look to them for guidance on housing and housing governance. Mr. President, we are proceeding to deal with a double-pronged approach to recovery, reconstruction, and economic growth. Mr. President, NARA will deal with reconstruction. We will, however, have to continue to run a government with a strong economic program that, yes, will include NARA, but has to deal with the rest of the country, the rest of the programs that are in place and to be done. Mr. President, this has to be done systematically. We had to draft legislation. We had to recruit a CEO using international advertisements and ensuring that we went through a proper shortlisting process, interviews, etc., to select the best person. And now things can proceed further apace. Mr. President, again, the fact that we are systematic about how we're approaching the matter means that some things have taken a little more time than we even would have wanted. But we're all clearly aware, perhaps the third point on which we all agree, is that bureaucracy is a problem in this country. So even as we try to be compliant, ensure that funds are being spent, which have been contributed in a way that they can demonstrably be shown to the persons who donated those funds that they have been spent in this way or that way, in concrete, not only demonstrates proper stewardship, but ensures that we are being compliant and ensuring that we avoid corrupt practices and not only avoid it, but avoid the allegations. Because, you know, it is there is a predisposition on that side to simply say the word without any basis, without any evidence, but to keep repeating it in a way, steady drumbeat that allows for perception to shift. So we are being careful, Mr. President, because we know trust is important at this time. And that, unfortunately, has meant taking a little more time. Mr. President, the issue, however, before us is really about the NHT amendment and about the continued drawdown for the next 5 years, 5 fiscal years, of amounts of up to $11.4 billion annually from the NHT to the central government. Mr. President, I think I can maybe use a question that was asked by Senator Tame on that side. She closed by asking what what would people say if they were asked whether $11.4 billion should be withdrawn from the NHT? And my answer is that that would depend on whether you give them the facts or you give them a narrative bound up in a groundless, zero-sum alternative of debt payment versus houses. Mr. President, this would be because the facts are that the withdrawal will not harm the NHT financially or institutionally. The transfers cannot be converted in the short term into closing the affordable housing gap. Thirdly, the constraints which exist are other than cash-based. And even simply increasing loans, increasing loan amounts only drives up the prices that again marginalizes the very people who you want to be able to have access to affordable housing. The choice between debt and housing is actually not the choice, but between the transfers and taxes or a cut to programs that are in place already delivering benefits to the Jamaican people at large. And it's in this context, Mr. President, that I think that the Jamaican people, who we know to be eminently reasonable, to be most likely to say, armed with the facts, that yes, it does sound reasonable that given that the losses incurred by Hurricane Melissa, Mr. President, that the losses incurred by Hurricane Melissa, Mr. President, if memory serves, more than $1 trillion in losses, loss and damage. Mr. President, the scope of reconstruction that has to take place and the deep engagement that's going to be needed with international financing as well as our local sources and engagement with the private sector. The scope, the sheer scope of what's going to be needed, Mr. President, is such that, yes, this is a time that might not be the best in order to discontinue the transfers, Mr. President. Mr. President, the last 10 years have been spent doing as much as possible, not only in housing, but in other areas. And I spoke to those in my opening remarks. And our commitment to continuing to do so in the interest of the Jamaican people will be ever more moving from strength to strength. And it is in this context, Mr. President, where we recognize that this 11.4 billion drawdown annually, or the fact that grants, etc., may be taken annually up to that maximum, that this is critical to our continuation of the delivery of not only our promises to people, based on which we obtained a mandate less than a year ago, but to do more, Mr. President, to positively impact the lives of as many people as possible, both through housing and otherwise. It is in this context, Mr. President, that without saying more, given that all has already been said, that I ask for second reading of this bill.
Thank you, Minister. The question is that the bill be read for a second time. Those in favor? Against? Madam Clerk?
An act to amend the National Housing Trust Act read a second time.
Thank you very much. The Senate will now resolve itself into a committee of the whole Senate to consider the bill clause by clause. I put clause 1. Those in favor? Against? I put clause 2. Those in favor? 1 minute. Clause 2. Senator Morris?
I have some amendments that I am proposing, and For in 2, I would want to see us delete 2C, 2D, and 2E because
Delete 2C,
Yes.
2D, and
E,
yes.
so that we would support for 2 years, which would end in 2028. And then I am going to be proposing a new 3.
To clause 3?
Yes,
No, don't get there yet then.
No, it's consequent.
it's
on
consequent on this.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm adding a new section 3, which would read, these funds should be specifically used to build houses for citizens who have been affected by Hurricane Melissa in the affected parishes. And the existing 3 would become 4, and therein we would change the date to March 2028. Those are the amendments that I'm proposing.
Thank you very much. So the members would have heard the proposed amendment to clause 2. All in favor of the amendments proposed by Senator Morris?
I
Thank you very much. So 1 minute.
There's
So
a
the
divide.
noes have it. Divide?
Yes,
Yeah, are you serious, Senator Morris?
Yeah,
A divide?
yeah.
yes.
Madam Clerk?
It's a proposal to build
Madam
house
Clerk?
to the people who are.
Senator Brown, please.
I'm just trying to clarify that it's about building houses. It's about.
Go ahead. Go ahead, please. No, that's not what they are saying no to. They are saying no to the proposal to amend clause 2 in a particular way as identified by Senator Morris. That's what the vote was about. Continue, please. Continue. Yeah, but I'm not putting the consequential amendments until I deal with the first part of it. Are you want me to put all the proposed amendments? Okay, excellent. Good. That saves a lot of time. So that is in relation to the amendment to clause 2. Members would have heard the consequential amendment to clause 3 and renumbering to 4. Good? So all in favor of that? Eh? I said it. Okay. So that is it. So, is there a divide on that? Okay. So, Madam Clerk, you're dividing in relation to the amendment to clause 2, clause 3, and clause 4.
Ms. Anderson, Mrs. Bennett Cooper, Mr. Bernard, Mr. Brown,
Yeah. Yes to building houses to people.
Go ahead, please, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Duncan,
Authority.
Mr. Fitzhenley, Mr. Gale, Mrs. Golding Campbell, Mr. Hill, Mrs. Johnson Smith, Mr. Morgan, Professor Morris, Mrs. Dana Mrs. Morris Dixon, Mrs. Scott Motley, Mr. Sinclair, Mr. Small Ferguson, Mr. Tavares Vinson, Dr. Tame, Mr. Thompson, and Mr. Tomlinson.
I do report the ayes 8, noes 10, 2 members absent. So the noes have it. I now put clause 2. Those in favor? Against? I put clause 3. Those in favor? Against? I put clause, I almost said clause 4. I put the title and enacting clause. Those in favor? Against? The question is that I do report the bill as having passed committee stage without amendment. Those in favor? Against? I do report the bill as having passed committee stage without amendment. Minister?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I asked for third reading. I'm ready to move on to the next.
Question is that the bill be read for a third time. Those in favor? Against? Madam Clerk?
An act to amend the National Housing Trust Act, read a third time and passed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, might I ask for recommittal of the following agenda items: 1, announcements; 2, reports from committee; and 3, notices of motion given orally.
Thank you very much. Members would have heard the question from Minister. Those in favor? Against? Announcements?
Also laid on the table of the Senate is the following: report of the Regulations Committee of the Senate on its deliberations on the insurance amendment of 20th Schedule Regulations 2026.
Reports from committees?
President, I beg to lay on the table of the Senate a copy of the report of the Regulations Committee of the Senate on its deliberations on the insurance amendment of 20th Schedule Regulations 2026.
Thank you very much. Notices of motions given orally? I'm sorry.
I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the Senate, I will move the following motion. Be it resolved that the report of the Regulations Committee of the Senate on its deliberations on the insurance amendment of the 20th Schedule Regulations 2026, which was laid on the table of the Senate on the 5th day of June 2026, be adopted. And I beg to give further notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of standing orders to enable me to take this motion.
Thank you, Minister. So we are back in public business.
I now move for the suspension of standing orders to enable me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier.
Members would have heard the question. Those in favor? Against?
Mr. President, the report has been tabled. It is before us. The chairman of committee is present online. If she wishes to say anything, members of the committee are present also if they wish to say anything. I note 100% attendance at the committee's meeting, and I know that there are no objections. So I actually think that this may well be an opportunity for it to simply be adopted by round of applause, if we would want. But I open the floor to see if there are any comments offered by Senator Golding Campbell as chair or any other member of the committee on either side.
Yes. Senator Ferguson, go ahead. Senator Golding Campbell was saying something. Technician, we have an issue here. Mr. Brown, we have an issue here with hearing Senator Golding Campbell. Yes, Senator Ferguson, you could go ahead and then ask.
Thank you, Mr. President. No, just to say that having participated in the committee, my understanding is that the period during which any negative resolution or rather any objection would have been raised, would have passed by the time we had the committee meeting. So it was just more of a conversation around the change vis-a-vis any, I suppose, agreement or unanimous agreement, which is what would have been implied just now. So just to say that there was no decision taken by the committee, the period during which any objection could have been raised had elapsed. So there was, to my mind, no real decision that was taken.
Senator Golden Campbell.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, are you hearing me? No?
Senator Golden Campbell, ensure that you have your, who is assisting me with this? Mr. Brown, where is he? Mr. Brown?
Are you able to hear me, Chairman? Mr. President? No?
Senator Brown.
Let me know if you're able to hear me now, Mr. President.
Yes, you talk up for me, please.
Okay. Yes, I was just for clarity, just indicating to the Senate that as Senator Small Ferguson indicated, the statutory period for the regulations to be sitting on the Senate floor had passed, but I think our committee, and particularly my opposition colleagues, did ask many and robust questions, and the FSC engaged quite a bit in responding to those questions. So I was very happy that the committee was able to ventilate the concerns that they had, and I want to thank my members for being on time for our meeting and for being prepared and allowing us to go through with the FSC in quick time. The increase in fees, Mr. President, has been long overdue. It's been almost 18 years since fees were adjusted. And so, I want to thank my committee members on both sides. And I ask that the Senate approve. Well, it's not really so much for the Senate to approve. We have not objected. And so the recommendation of the committee is really just to have the report approved.
Sorry, Minister. Senator Brown?
Yeah. Not on the committee, but I'm a member of the Senate. And I'm therefore entitled to comment on this issue. I'm concerned, President, about the point made by Senator Small Ferguson. The management of the Parliament ought to be such as not tender reports when they are presented in a timely manner, but when a matter like this requires a response from the Parliament in terms of a negative resolution, that the timeline for making that response ought to see and require that the report come to the Senate in time to give us an opportunity to do our constitutional duty. And it doesn't augur well for the management of the Senate and the Parliament. It's easier to lock out that which no court stop you from delivering to us and to the people. And I'm wondering whether or not the failure to bring this to the Senate could in any way invalidate the decision. A decision which the players in the industry are concerned about, because it is a significant increase in regulatory fees. And while the minister says it is 18 years, the truth is, because of the percentage attachment to the fees, there have been constant increase in the earnings of the regulator. Today, President, we debated the NHT withdrawal of 11 point.
You gone back there?
Yes, because I want to make the connection. I think it was Senator T.M. Worley said the airport money, I was at St. Mary's. The airport money, we took money from BOJ. We took money from a number of these agencies. I can't help myself cover. Because from the FSC, we took $500 million. $500 million, which has caused the FSC to be in the red. From a profitable organization, it is now in the red. And I fear that this raiding of the bond, every bond that's seen,
Mr. President, on a point of order.
even when they don't plant the seed.
There's a point of order. Let me
Mr.
just deal with it.
President, on a point of order. With respect, my colleague Senator Broad is really repeating language that is irrelevant
That's not a point of
to
order.
the matter. That is irrelevant at Standing Order 43. Kindly read it if you haven't. It is irrelevant to the contents of the report and the substance of the regulations that were before the Regulations Committee. This is a matter of an increase in fees that has been 18 years since the FSC last increased fees. In an industry that's grown in complexity, that's grown in terms of the
What's the point of order?
responsibilities of the FSC. And so talking about raiding and all of this, it is absolutely not connected to the matter at hand.
So the point of order is in relation to the question of relevance.
Relevant, Mr.
So what you need to do?
Yes, Mr. President.
Committee
And
discussed.
repeating his own tedious arguments for his own ears.
Okay, just
The committee discussed that $500 million, which was taken from the FSC, part of which necessitates the increase in the fees and the people. And the government don't want us to talk about that. I am talking about what was discussed in the committee. $500 million, which has caused the FSC to be in the red. And I'm saying part of that reason and why we know being asked to increase the fees is because of this government tendency to raid the bonds when they never plant no corn.
all right. Thank you very much.
And that's
Senator
part of the reason why I am of the view that the economy is on sandy ground, because the government has to rely on money from this bond, that bond, and soon the whole country going to be bankrupt.
All right.
Under this
Thank you very
corrupt
much,
government.
Minister.
Mr. President, I don't think I will. I don't think I will try to enter into the debate on the matter. I think I will simply ask for the adoption of the report.
Thank you very much. The question is that the notices of motion given earlier by the member be approved. That is to say, that the motion be approved. Those in favor? Against?
Mr. President, it is not intended.
Okay, I just have a few things to just deal with quickly. Just to remind members that the official funeral for former Senator and Minister Lex Campbell is for tomorrow at 10. Members would have seen the location on their communication device. And then former Senator Hugh Hart is next week, Wednesday. I think it's next week, Wednesday. So those two are two things to note. 1 minute.
Former chairman, I query note, former chairman of the IDT, former trade unionist Donovan Hunter, his funeral is on Tuesday,
Of next week.
the 9th, 11 o'clock at St. Andrew. Parish. Yeah, and half a tree.
Yeah, so that's it in relation to those two announcements, and I think that the Senate made note of Ian Ford's passing earlier. Okay, so finally, just to say that yesterday I attended the inaugural professorial lecture of our of Senator Professor Floyd Morris, and the topic of the presentation was towards establishing a grassroots political model of disability in the Caribbean. It's a very engaging lecture which I enjoyed tremendously. However, I need to bring to your attention that the professor, I don't think he was a professor, but Dr. Devandish, that was his name, referred to Senator Floyd Morris coming from the small and insignificant parish of St. Mary. That did not go down very well. But they would not have appreciated it. The lecture was one that, as I said, it was extremely engaging. A number of our colleagues attended, including Senator Scott Motley. As I said, very engaging. Senator Morris spoke with authority born from personal experience and reminded us that he led the negotiations for the Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities between 22 and 2006, and that Jamaica was the first country to sign and ratify that treaty. And he has since served for 6 years as one of the only 18 experts in the United Nations Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, reviewing the compliance with the treaty for over 60 countries. So a remarkable, absolutely remarkable progress in relation to his development, and I think that we all should recognize him. One of the things that I made a note of that I would say to Minister of Education, Dr. Morris Dixon, is that he spoke about the need for us to pay attention to the Hope Valley Experimental School and was asking for some attention there. And I'm sure that Senator Morris will speak to you about it. I pointed out to a colleague of mine that you have a particular interest in this area, and we are sure that there'll be some fruitful discussion between yourself and Senator Morris. And he also made an appeal for more research grants for persons with disabilities. And I know that it is something that you will pay attention to. So I've opened the door for you, Senator Morris, to have further discussion with the minister. But on a personal note, I mean, you and I have had a great experience here in the Senate together when you were the president and I was the leader of opposition. When Senator Kamina Johnson was in fact a member of that Senate. We have always had respectful interchanges, and it is, you said at the end of your presentation, well, look at you now. You're someone who has fought every inch of the way for the success that you have garnered. And I think that we all respect you for it. I couldn't help, I must tell you, and this is not a political statement, in listening to you speak about your journey, I could not help but reflect on the journey of the Honorable Prime Minister Andrew Holness, whose background is not unsimilar to yours. And it proves that every Jamaican can reach the pinnacle of their personal capacity with hard work and dedication. Congratulations again.
Thank you, Mr. President. And as we bring this sitting to a close and by indicating that it is not intended to do any further business. I would just add one small fact to your commendations to Senator Morris, who I've congratulated privately, but who I will congratulate once more from the floor, and that he was the first Caribbean representative on that committee of experts. So not only the first Jamaica, but the first representative from the Caribbean. So I know that my team at the ministry continues to take great pride in the candidature election. That was very strongly competitive and hard fought, as he is well aware, on the first and second round, and therefore that he emerged with the support of his colleagues and who sat on the committee with him was a testament to his successes in the first term, and undoubtedly will inform the remainder of the expertise that he brings despite no longer sitting on that committee. So we congratulate him on behalf of this side, and we thank you for representing us. You're there now, yes, but
it would be remiss of me after that just to allow him not to just respond briefly.
Mr. President, you know, I am always grateful to the members of the Senate and to all those who participated last night. I found out in talking with Senator Morris Dixon that there seemed to have been a breakdown in communication where some received the invitation and others never received. Right? And I know that I spoke with Kavan, and Kavan had received but couldn't attend because of other situations. So, I mean, my apologies for those who never received, but the invitation was being handled on different frontiers, and that might have contributed to it. So, Mr. President, you came and you represented very well along with the members of my opposition team. And I must say, Mr. President, the point that I raised about Hope Valley Experimental is that based on my assessment of the over 60 countries across the world, Hope Valley Experimental constitute one of the best practices across the world, not just Jamaica, Minister. And what it has done is to bring persons with disabilities at different levels, profound disabilities to mild disabilities, in the same space as others without a disability. And you have the entire teaching staff there, along with the supportive technology and the shadows and the caregivers that are in the same space, providing for these children with disability. And the thing that disappoints me is that for 50 years, Hope Valley Experimental has remained what it is, experimental. And Minister, it is something that we have to correct. It has run cut across administration. We need to make sure that every parish have a Hope Valley Experimental setup. It can be done, and it should be done. And Minister, I say Minister Johnson Smith now, I'm very much grateful, you know, for this.
Please, hello, would you allow the
I'm very much grateful
finish,
for the support that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, you know, have given me over the years in terms of the election effort, because I am elected in my own right as an expert to the committee, but the whole election procedure, according to the United Nations, have to be routed through a state party. And I tell you, I am very grateful because the world has been responding to my work. I just returned from Azerbaijan, Baku, for the World Urban Forum, where I was invited to speak on the issue of accessibility for persons with disabilities in urban spaces, and then left there to South Africa, where I was told that the South Africans insisted that I should be at that particular forum for disabled parliamentarians, where, Mr. President, I realized that I am now the longest serving disabled parliamentarian who is active. And I have to give God for his continued goodness.
No, it's I want to make Charlie.
I am very grateful for the continued goodness of God in my life. I will tell you, when blindness came in 1989, I wouldn't tell anybody that I would be here where I am. I left high school without a single academic subject in '86 because of the onset of blindness. The teachers never knew what to do, and so I went through the system. And it is the sheer will of God, support of family members, and the University of the West Indies, and most definitely, I think God has come down especially on me because of the woman that he has placed in my life, my wife, Shirley. And Mr. President, the funny thing, as I said last night, there was a running joke between the guy who introduced me whilst I resided on Taylor Hall. We always was laughing at Shellyan on the campus, and she ended up being my wife. And so, I'm very grateful for what has happened and all those who have supported. And yes, Mr. President, what you have said about the Prime Minister, I accept. We might agree on different issues, but let me tell you one thing. It is possible in this Jamaica land we love for any one of us to become whatsoever or whoever we want to be, because this land is endowed with greatness. And that is why Marcus Garvey said, "Up, ye mighty race, you can accomplish what you will." Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
President, I don't believe the Marshal will allow me to take my seat again without asking that the Senate be adjourned for a date to be fixed.
Members should have heard the question. Those in favor?